All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. We are a couple minutes late. Sorry about that. I'm your host, Bill Murphy. Well, I'm live with my friend Rachel, who I'll introduce here in just a few slides, in Denver, Colorado at our Bowman Construction Supply main office. We have 3 offices out here. We have Colorado Springs and Loveland as well. And I love being on site. As you can see with the banner below, I'm blessed to get to work with not only Bowman Construction Supply, ASP Enterprises, Quick Supply Company, and Cascade Geosynthetics. And we are part of the Hale Holdings family of companies. And I'm so grateful to Hale Holdings for believing in me for 10 years. Next month will be 10 years. And even on days like this, when things don't go perfectly, I still have a job. But one of the things we're blessed with is still being family owned. And this family lives in the middle of the United States. And they have a number of companies, but they still operate us as a small family business. So when I come into this office or any other office, we're a small family of companies that have big power now because we have a big footprint across the U.S. A lot of years, a lot of people. We need to update this because I think we've added some folks, and we're going to update this slide here in a few weeks. I think maybe in a month or so, we'll have another announcement by the time we do our next, maybe not the next webinar, that's September 4th, but the one after that in October, on October 9th, we might have some updated numbers and information here. This map is updated. Madeline was kind enough to update this with our new Wentzville, Missouri location, which is just west of St. Louis. We're blessed that business is booming across the country. And as we learned during COVID that we're all essential, our infrastructure isn't stopping. We still have a lot of people and a lot of places to go, and we're blessed to be able to help be a part of that. When we bring a guest speaker in here and we talk specifically about their solutions, we want to make sure you understand that we still have everything else that's available to you. And if you're interested in learning more about Profile Products, who I'll introduce here in a minute, or any of our other solutions, just reach out to your local rep from any of those companies I've already mentioned. And this is just showing off a little bit of a flex of how blessed we are. And we have pictures like this from all of our locations on all those areas on the map that I already showed you. And one of my favorite things is when I get to come to these other locations, seeing the inside sales team for sure, who I deal with often, and the outside sales folks that I deal with every day, meeting the warehouse folks and the drivers. Every now and then you'll see Rachel and I's eyes go back and forth because there's a glass wall on the other side of this table, on the other side of this conference room. And a lot of the warehouse staff and drivers come and go from there. And they're curious about what we're doing as well. We're live on the air. But the people who go out and make it happen. So it's one thing for me to specify things with engineers, landscape architects, owners, even design build with contractors. It's another to have our outside sales team coordinate those sales to the contractors and to work with our suppliers. But none of that matters if we don't actually take the order and get it where they need it when they need it. And that's where we add a lot of value. After this presentation, I'm going to downtown Denver to look at the 16th Street Mall, where we surgically and strategically make deliveries because they don't have a lot of room to store materials. And on sites like that, or even sites like where we were Monday, sometimes they don't have the luxury of having everything delivered all at once. So they need it when they need it. And what I'm learning out here is when the weather window allows, you better jump on it and get it there. Oh, so I had Rachel's picture up front. I was going to do one more slide, but I guess I didn't. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my friend Rachel Reynolds. You may remember her from the earlier days as Rachel Higgins. She lives out here in Colorado, and she covers a lot of our areas on that map. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And she's here to represent Profile Products. Thank you for being patient with all this technical stuff I had trouble with.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me, Bill. And, there's always something. So thank you guys so much for logging in here today. Appreciate your time. As Bill said, my name is Rachel Reynolds. And today I'm going to be talking about hydraulically applied erosion control and sustainable vegetation solutions. So a little bit about me. As Bill mentioned, Rachel Reynolds, formerly Rachel Higgins from our last presentation, but I am based here in Denver and cover the highlighted states you can see on your screen. I am a Midwest transplant, ILL, but I've been with Profile for over 7 years and happy to talk with you guys today. That said, Profile, we've got a really large team around the world. Just wanted to briefly show this map. If you have any questions on any of the products we talk about today, feel free to reach out to me, your Hale Group rep, or any of my colleagues, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. So Profile Products, who we are is we are a green technology company, and we are the world's largest manufacturer of hydraulically applied erosion control products. we have multiple manufacturing facilities throughout the US, but we are working on and supplying projects around the world. And with that, something really important to us is our team. So we have people from various different backgrounds and specialties to help us develop these unique solutions needed for projects around the world. And then, lastly, as a manufacturer, it is really important for us to continuously improve. So we've got a really great R&D department. We're trying to make improvements to our own materials so we can supply you all with some sustainable solutions to put out on your projects. Now, I mentioned we are the world's largest manufacturer of hydraulically applied erosion control products. So, before we get too far, and we're not going to worry about the Q&A today, so just do me a favor and talk out loud at home. But wanted to kind of get a feel for how familiar you might be with hydroseeding. So, a lot of people are going to be pretty familiar if you guys are using these products all the time, or I've heard of it, or, don't be afraid to admit that you have no idea what this picture is. That's fine too.
And Rachel had this set up to do a poll because she's done this a lot on Teams and other sites where she has it set up in the chat. So you can go ahead and weigh in. And guys, I kind of blew that. We disabled chat. I want to mention this anyway. We use Q&A. So if you have questions for us, we will be able to bounce out and go over to the Zoom control window. And just to make an excuse for myself, Zoom changed the way they did things since our previous webinar in April. And I haven't quite got caught up to speed on that, but this poll would normally, they could enter it in the Q&A and we could see it afterwards.
They could, yeah. So if you want to let us know 1, 2, 3, your familiarity, that would be great. But either way, I hope we've got a lot of experts here and people just getting into it. But let's, put everybody on the same page. So when I'm talking about hydroseeding, we're referring to a mixture of your seed, fertilizer, your soil amendments, your hydromulch, and they can all be mixed in the back of this tank. So think of them as, different ingredients we can add to this mix. And then from there, we add water, create this slurry, and then it's topically applied to the soil. And this is a industry standard machine, but they come in a wide range of sizes, anywhere from 300 gallons to 4,000 plus gallon tanks. So they can really handle a wide range of project applications. But with this application, we can put our seed amendments and our erosion control down in one step. So it's a really economical way to stabilize and successfully vegetate your project. So that's what we're talking about when we're referencing hydraulic applications throughout this presentation. And, we do supply material around the world. Unfortunately, there is not a silver bullet or one size fits all solution for every single project. So with that in mind, Profile, we recommend what we call our 5 fundamental approach, because each project is unique. It has different constraints. We're dealing with different seasonalities. So we really need to take a prescriptive approach on these projects. And so last year, we did a webinar on May 3rd, 2023, if you want to look that up on their YouTube channel, where we really went into depth, in depth on the 5 fundamental process. So hopefully we have some repeat visitors, so we're not going to touch on that same topic. But today we're really going to focus more on fundamental 1. Of the 5, 1 is soil testing, seed selection, erosion control selection, proper installation, and follow-up inspection and maintenance. So today, trust me, I can talk your ear off for days about all of these, but we're going to focus on that first fundamental.
And that's our request. So Rachel also spoke at Clean and Green for us at a number of locations last year, or this year, I guess. So we try to give her opportunities to do that. But I'm sad because usually you ask the audience who knows the 5 fundamentals, and I get to raise my hand, but you already shared them with everybody. And I think too many people skip that number 1. If they skip the first step, I mean, it's like any 5-step program, you can't skip the first step.
Exactly. So, I mean, Bill's leading me right into my next slide. Why is this important? Why are we spending?
We didn't even practice.
Why are we spending, this hour of your afternoon talking about that first fundamental? Creating optimal soil conditions. What is this really going to do? So I love this slide because, let's work backwards. So, Profile, we manufacture erosion control solutions, Bowman, Cascade, ASP, Quick. They supply countless hundreds of BMPs to really get to provide some erosion control protection. But if we're looking at long-term erosion control, we found that the most cost-effective way to get there is first establishing sustainable vegetation. And sustainable vegetation can sometimes be easier said than done. And so we really can't get there unless we first start with our soil. So from this flow chart, we can see we have to have healthy soil. This is the foundation for erosion control. This is going to be where this vegetation can actually flourish. And then if we have this sustainable vegetation, this is going to be a low cost solution, and not to mention the environmental benefits it's going to give back on your project. So sustainable vegetation, what's that? This is really just what we mean by vegetation, that once it's been established, it's able to grow and flourish through nutrient cycling. Essentially, we plant it one season, we need to make sure it's there again next year. We don't want to plant a cover crop that then dies out and then we're back to bare ground. So we need to have vegetation that can actually thrive and adapt in your environment. And this sustainability is going to come from nutrient cycling. And this really requires a healthy soil as the infrastructure to support and nurture your vegetation. So we can kind of see through this image here what that whole process is, but we really need the healthy bugs and microbes in the soil to create healthy soil that's going to allow this continual nutrient cycling process. And so, we said we can't have that unless we have healthy soil. So what is soil health? This is by definition, it's really the continued capacity of your soil to function as a vital living ecosystem. And this is what's going to sustain your plants, animals, and humans. Now, I know a lot of us in the erosion control space, we can sometimes think of soil or sediment as our number one pollutant, right? This is something we're trying to capture or prevent from moving, and so it can kind of seen more so as a pollutant. But I encourage you to think of it differently. This is a great resource. This is something we want to amend, we want to keep in place, and this is the foundation for your vegetation to grow. And so when we're talking about this healthy soil, what's in it? Here's kind of a breakdown of what we can typically see in, our ideal healthy soil. So it's about 45% mineral matter. So think of that as your sand, silt, and clay. And then for this to be a healthy living resource, we need air and water, right? So we have to have air and water. But then what separates dirt from healthy, rich soil is going to be this organic and biological component. So ideally, we're striving for around 5% organic matter. And this organic matter, as you saw from the previous slides, and the biological activity is what feeds that nutrient cycling process. So putting it all together, so on the left, what you see here is kind of a textbook example of a healthy soil. Where we're doing all of our work in terms of amending and seeding and stabilizing is going to be that top layer. And so ideally, we have our topsoil layer, which is about the top 12 inches of soil. And this is where we're going to have that really healthy composition. Because as you'd expect, the deeper down into the soil profile we go, you're not going to get the air, you're not going to get the water, your bugs aren't going to go that deep down. But really where all the magic happens for vegetation is in that rich topsoil layer. We have all the necessary components that allows for nutrient cycling and carbon sequestration. So this is great, and this is textbook. But this happens maybe on 1% or less than 1% of construction jobs we're working with. So for the most part, when it comes to a need for reclamation, these construction sites, this is more so what we're dealing with. So that topsoil layer was stripped away. It was maybe taken to another job. It blew away if we're here in Colorado, maybe it's in Kansas somewhere. It was stripped away or we regraded and it got turned in. And so once we finish grade and it's time to seed, we're starting with some less than ideal growing conditions. And profile, we do a lot of soil testing, which we'll touch on here shortly. And of the thousands of soil tests we've done, about 95% of them come in less than ideal. So,
and this picture, can I chime in with you?
Yeah.
This picture is so typical, even in the, like, I got out of college I was born in the 1900s. So I got out of college in the mid 90s. And I just like saying that. Every project with private land development had a stockpile, and public projects had stockpiles of topsoil because they were trying to get credit for, we'll just put all the good black dirt over here. When we're all done, however long it takes, we'll spread it back out. What we've learned since is that soil dies on the inside, especially. Maybe the crust stays healthy, but most of that soil dies because we've smothered it and no more air, no more water. And it's now dead soil without that healthy percentage that you talked about with organic matter and healthy good bacteria. So even if you go to respread it, it ends up like this. And often I wrote a note, guys, if you see me writing a note, it's not for Rachel, it's for me to chime in when I can. And it's also for me to kind of glean for my next time I talk about this. But in the past, a lot of utility companies would come through in your residential neighborhoods or whatever. They'd have to dig out and repair a water line or whatever it is and add a utility. When they're done, they throw the dirt back in, and it's upside down. It's not the same OA horizon with the top 12 inches being healthy as it used to be. They'll sometimes scatter seed just to satisfy the neighbors, not even really grade it very nicely. No offense to my utility friends out there. And they'll leave. And sometimes they'll get grass to grow and they'll check the box. Yep, we took care of it. Well, that next year it's dead. The grass is dead because you can do a chia pet and get grass to grow on this desk or on the side of a rock, but it's not sustainable, like Rachel said, if it doesn't keep coming back. So we get this dead soil on almost all construction sites, like you said. And it's not because of bad intentions. It's just the nature of the beast. That's what happens.
Yep.
So we have to plan ahead and build into the project. Let's do this part to fix it when we're done with the big stuff.
Right. And that's a great point. And in a couple slides, stockpiling is a great practice as long as it's properly maintained.
Yeah, why isn't this scrolling where you can see the next slide?
Oh, it's okay.
Isn't that terrible?
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
You're gonna drag that and slide it down?
So, with talking about soil health and key components, a lot of times organic matter is, it's not there or it's very deficient. But why is that important? I love this slide. This is from the USDA. And, healthy soil has an amazing water retention capacity. So for every 1% increase in organic matter, it can result in as much as 25,000 gallons of available soil water per acre, which is huge. As Bill said, we're here in Denver, we're in a high elevation desert. Moisture is one of the most limited things we can have on a site. So adding organic matter is going to increase our overall soil health and then also provide countless benefits to your vegetation. So, organic matter, if you guys haven't heard the news, it's pretty important.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So, we're talking a lot about soil health. Yeah. What is healthy soil? How do you know?
That looks like my yard.
Yeah, I wish that was my yard. But, how can we tell if our soil is healthy? Really takes us back to our fundamentals. One, do a soil test. We can dig a little, learn a lot. It's really hard to prescribe or guess what's going on the soil if we don't first do a test.
I want to write a song called Dig a Little, Learn a Lot.
Yeah, so with this soil testing, in terms of reclamation, the main thing that we want to test for is the agronomic potential of the soil. So we're looking at our macro and micronutrients, our pH, our organic matter, our salt content. This is going to let us know where we're at with existing nutrients, or if we potentially have any high concentrations of salts or anything that could negatively impact your germination. And so this is so important that Profile, we manufacture erosion control, but we know if the soil isn't tested first, you're not really going to get those results that you want in the end. So this is so important to us that we can actually provide free soil testing for you.
Free? You're practically giving it away.
Exactly. But yeah, so we can provide free soil testing through our website called Profile Soil Solution Software. This is really designed for those reclamation projects. Unfortunately, we're not going to do any testing for your garden, but if you are looking for reclamation where we could potentially help with some solutions, we do have a tool available for you. Because the main thing here is, one of my colleagues jokes that you can't go to your doctor and say, hey, you need to give me X, Y, and Z. They're going to laugh and say, well, we're going to do a blood test. We're going to test, make sure you need it before we prescribe it. So the same thing with our soil. A lot of times we see copy paste or cookie cutter specs. It's like, hey, we did this here, just do it everywhere else.
Yeah.
And you're leaving money on the table because sometimes you might not need all those amendments, or you actually might need something else. So do the soil test up front, and it can save a lot of the unknown. And just for reference, soil testing through PS Cubed, we use a third-party lab in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a 3 to 5 business day turnaround. So it's a pretty quick process. It's completely free to register. Here's the website. Or what I really encourage is all of the Hale Group sales rep, they have a PS Cubed account, or if not, they're going to get one now, and they can certainly help you go through that process. So if you have any sites where you'd like to try soil testing, just get in touch with your local rep, reach out to myself. We'd be more than happy to go through that process with you.
I did it not too long ago for a small prairie restoration, and within the little 5-acre plot, you could look at an old fashioned USGS map, say it's the same soil type on a big contour map, and it was totally different. I took 2 samples, one at each corner of this acreage, and they were totally different results. So they needed different prescription for those areas.
Yeah. And so, this is a great tool. We offer 2 free soil samples per test. We recommend you wait to do it until you're at final grade, because we're really just trying to test where you will be seeding. And so what you guys can see on the screen right now, this is an example of what all those results look like. So it's a pretty robust analysis going through all those parameters we saw in the previous slide. But then, oh wait, there's more. We have the results, but then we actually have recommendations as well. So depending on where your parameters fall in the scale of soil health, we can then prescribe products at specific application rates to help treat your soil. We have some soil neutralizers there to modify your pH, whether we need to raise or lower. We've got some growth stimulants to help with sustained growth and help with that overall development. Biotic Soil Media, which is what we're going to really pivot to here shortly.
Yay.
And this is a great way to add organic matter to your soil. And then we also have additional fertilizer recommendations straight from the lab that can really help you out on your site. So really recommend trying out this tool, because once we get that soil test, then we can actually figure out what we need to do to fix it. So, what we see here, these are the most common amendments used to treat our soil. Our fertilizers, great way to add nutrients, neutralizers, modifying that pH to make those nutrients more available. But then where we're spending most of our time today is organic matter, because as we saw at the beginning of the presentation, this is a key component of healthy soil, and a lot of our sites are deficient. So how can we raise it? And so we've got some hydraulic solutions to help address that need. So organic matter and biological activity, this is really what sets that topsoil apart from the rest of the dirt, right? Organic matter, this is the foundation for all biological life in the soil. And without it, organic matter is not capable of building a solid foundation. So, we do the soil testing, it's sufficient. How do we increase it? These, on the screen, these are probably the most common industry used solutions for increasing organic matter. They all have pros and cons. I'm sure you guys have used these on your projects. But I will say, there are some considerations that come into play. Topsoil and compost, hands down, the 2 most commonly used solutions to bring in more organic matter on your site. But I just want to, have a couple of things that you should kind of have in the back of your mind. Number 1 is quality. If we are calling for topsoil, we need to make sure that we're actually defining it and not just saying topsoil, because that can be pretty open to interpretation.
It's too vague.
So making sure that we actually have definable parameters for what is going to benefit the site. Same thing with compost. There's a lot of great composting standards. However, we need to be careful with the allowable limits. I've been out on job sites, and the blown compost, there's tire treads or needles and, things that we all know are not going to benefit that germination. So really it comes down to quality. So just make sure that we're checking that before we allow this material on our site. And then where is it? Depending on where our project is and where your material source is, it can add quite a bit of trucking and hauling costs to your job site. Something else that's been up for debate quite a bit in the industry is how much is enough. We've seen specs where they call for 6 inches or half an inch of compost or topsoil, and how much is actually going to provide the necessary benefit. Another thing, we're out here in the mountains. It's a little difficult to spread soil on steep slopes. So that's another consideration and safety factor that comes into play. And so, all that to say, there's lots of great options out there, but we need to make sure that we're weighing what's going to be the best fit for your individual site. So, what do you do? What we typically see out on a job site, if there isn't healthy soil, kind of one or two options. One, use the existing soil and hope for the best, or the spray and pray. Yeah, the spray and pray method. It's got a really fun ring to it, but hardly ever gets you the results that you are looking for. Otherwise, the other option is we have to get pretty creative with the budget or find a way to haul in some outside material and spread it onto your site. So that way we aren't trying to reseed 5 or 6 times. So seeing that need in the market led to another alternative. And so this is a hydraulically applied alternative to topsoil and compost to provide organic matter on your sites. And so the product we manufacture is called ProGanics. And as you can see here, this is a hydraulic application that we can use the same equipment for erosion control to now apply a topsoil alternative. So ProGanics, again, designed as a topsoil and compost alternative. One of the huge benefits here is that this is manufactured to a specification. So we know what's in every single bale, 365. So this is manufactured growth media containing recycled biodegradable fibers, biostimulants, and patented biological soil nutrient system. And I like to think of this as we're spraying out the fertility of a topsoil just without your sand, silt, and clay. So this is designed to interact with your existing substrate, and over time, through vegetation establishment and this nutrient cycling process, we can actually rebuild your O&A horizon in place over time. Not to mention the huge benefit with the hydraulic application regarding slopes. So we're not going to go through all of the whole composition, but just know the main component that we're getting with this material is increased organic matter. And that's coming from the renewable, thermally refined bark and wood fibers. So these fibers have been phytosanitized, which means they've been exposed to a really high heat and pressure. And why that's important is it eliminates any outside weed seeds or pathogens from being introduced to your project. So after they've been phytosanitized, then we load in the soil building components that you can see here. So this is really all the fuel we need to jumpstart that naturally occurring nutrient cycling process. Ideally, we could just use topsoil everywhere, but we're using it and meeting it at a pace much faster than, Mother Nature can recreate it. So this is a way to kind of accelerate that process.
Wish we had a video or something to show them how it goes down. Maybe
later.
How
Great
we doing
idea.
on time? So
We're good.
I see we're out of the slider. I gotta quit.
I got a lot of pictures. You're good.
Yeah.
But so how does ProGanics actually work? With that increased organic matter, it's going to help improve the chemistry, which then helps with our soil structure and texture. So putting this out there is really going to help create a more ideal environment for your seed to germinate. And then, like I said, allow that naturally occurring nutrient cycling process to kind of ignite and start to occur on your job site.
I love this one.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, ProGanics, we're providing the soil building components. So with 2 tank loads of ProGanics in a 3,000-gallon machine, we can provide the same amount of organic and soil building components as what you would get in 36 truckloads of quality topsoil. Again, we don't have the sand, silt, and clay that would be in that topsoil, so we can just apply this out there. But think of the amount of time and labor and trucking we can save by using this alternative.
So efficient.
Compared to bringing in outside material. That said, if you do need to hit grade, or if you need all that soil to get to a certain depth, you could use fill soil or a cheaper material and then just treat with ProGanics.
Yeah, the world only has so many acres of good topsoil.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be stealing it from somewhere else, right?
Exactly, because we're stealing it from one job site and then we're just kicking the can for the next issue. So how does it look?
Whoa,
Here's a video of that application. So really easy to apply, especially when we're talking about slopes, a fast way to get this soil building and organic material out on our job site. So there's a lot of options out there to increase organic matter on our soils. I'm not telling you to never use topsoil or compost. These are great materials to incorporate on your site. I just challenge you to double check the quality before we're bringing that in. And if not, just be aware that you have another tool in your toolbox with ProGanics. So this is a consistent product that we can help treat that soil on site. So, soil testing is key, but then once we have that, we can figure out how we can actually treat and amend our soil.
I want to make sure you and our audience know I'm texting with Madeline because she's my eyes on what the audience is seeing. So I keep checking with her. And she said we're doing good.
Okay, good.
So I'm not trying to be rude, guys. Check my fantasy football team.
So he says, yeah. So, with ProGanics, one of the things, mixing an application, this is manufactured in 50-pound bale. If you're familiar with our hydraulic erosion control products, really low moisture content. You're going to break this up into the machine, add your seed, other amendments, add water, hydrate it to get this rich brown slurry, and then we apply it out onto the soil. And so think of this as a soil amendment, talking about a project, this is replacing that topsoil line item. So we still need erosion control. So once this is down, it's time for your erosion control product, whether it's a hydromulch, a blanket, blown straw, or we've even used this below sod. So, once this is out there, just keep in mind that we still do need to protect this with some form of protection.
Speaking on behalf of our audience, this audience loves Flexterra.
Me too.
Awesome. Yeah.
Me too. That's great. So, we talked about Flexterra and some of our other products a little bit at our last webinar. But just as a brief refresher, erosion control, it's not all created equal. There's different levels of composition and performance. We talked about last time how you just need to have a product that can complement, your product performance can actually complement the natural site attributes or constraints. So with that, we talked about different levels of performance. If we've got flat sites versus steep sites, seeding in an ideal window versus dormant seeding, that's when we might need to change what type of product we're using.
And we have all of those. Our company carries everything from top to bottom on that spectrum.
They carry all these products for you. To simplify it, we think of a good, better, best. So think of it as this is hard. This is really hard in terms of protecting erosion. That's when we inversely go with that good, better, best. So kind of flat areas, wood with tack. Steeper slopes, we need longer protection. ProMatrix is the way to go. But for those extreme sites, steep slopes, or we need that further extended protection or a limited cure time, Flexterra is the highest performing hydromulch in the industry. So we use all of these products regularly with ProGanics. And for those of you tuning in on the West Coast, I did want to mention we have a plant in Rockford, Washington. And the main difference here is this is a straw-based hydromulch. So, but we're trying to do the same thing, good, better, best level of performance. So for those of you out of the Cascade offices or even in Bowman here, you guys might be a little bit more familiar with these, but same concept, good, better, best, increasing performance to give you that better protection on site. And so the reason I mentioned that is, if we are going to do a soil test, which hopefully we all are, and then if we need to amend with Biotic Soil Media, here we can see what the best solution we can provide is. So starting with a Biotic Soil Media and capping with a hydromulch. And so this does require a two-step application out in the field. And while this is our highest level of protection, we did get feedback from the field where, hey, this is great. I need to be able to do this faster. So that led to the introduction of a 2-in-1 product.
I've never seen this one.
What we know is time is money, right? So how can we save time and water out on our job sites?
Tell me where that's so I can drive by and take pictures of it. That looks so cool.
Right? I wish that was real. But so with that in mind, we developed a new product where we're combining the soil building components of a Biotic Soil Media with the erosion control of our hydraulic erosion control products. And really this works together in one step to rejuvenate the topsoil and control erosion. And so we have two products available, ProGanics DUAL. This is going to be our wood-based product, and HydroStraw all-in-one BFM. Same kind of technology, just with the straw-based fiber. So ProGanics DUAL, just to kind of see where it's been used, it's gotten a lot of traction in solar markets where access to the site is pretty limited. So you got to get in and out as quick as you can. So this was a winter application, applying ProGanics DUAL in between these arrays. Notice this is going to be that rich brown color from the bark and wood fibers. We've got some good contrasts there. The following spring, it's still pretty dormant, but then going back in the summer, we can see why they had a limited time on there. So as soon as they finished seeding, they put the fence up. So they really had like a one-shot chance to get this established. Exactly. So, similar concept, HydroStraw all-in-one BFM. This was used out in California for the car fire reclamation. So this, ravaged California after the wildfires, and a lot of this was near highways. So it was really important from a safety standpoint that these slopes were stabilized as quickly as possible. So HydroStraw all-in-one BFM went out on these slopes, and here we can see some great vegetation coming in. So one application, get those machines in and out of there faster, and helps improve overall job site safety.
Huge. We now have to start all of our company meetings with a safety share.
Exactly.
Everyone does, no matter what part of the country you're in.
Yeah, so if we can limit the time exposed on a job site for the installers, and not to mention the general public, it's going to benefit everyone. So, to kind of wrap up, we hopped around with these 5 fundamentals, mainly focusing on one, but I just want to remind you, we've got some biotic soil medias to help with organic matter, but then also keep in mind, we've got some all-in-one solutions that can go into fundamental 3. And so to kind of close us home today, I've got a couple case studies partnering with the Hale Group. So I wanted to share those with you, and then would love to take any questions that we've got. So first up, Kansas. This is a DOT project, K10. For those of you last year, I did talk about this project, but we've got an update. So as a refresher, this was started in 2015. So this was just on the east side of Lawrence, Kansas, and really steep shale slopes. So they needed to find a way to get vegetation established and keep everything in place along this new construction. So the first thing they did was a soil test. The results they got back, organic matter came in around 0.9%. So not a lot. And with the heavy shale out there, they wanted to see what we could do to create a more ideal environment for this vegetation to grow. So ProGanics was recommended at 4,000 pounds per acre. And given the steepness and length of these slopes, this was a great opportunity for Flexterra. So this is that 2-step approach, Flexterra, ProGanics BSM, capped with Flexterra HPFGM for erosion control. So on this picture, you can see the shale. Yeah. This is what we're working against.
0.9 is less than 5. I did that in my head.
It sure is. Good point. Yeah, so here we can see the starting conditions. And then within, I think it was around like 6 weeks or so, they started to get vegetation already, which is incredible. So here's a couple other shots of that site. Going back, Todd Noble, thank you for these pictures. He went out in December to get these pictures. We've still got vegetation. Obviously, it's dormant for the time of the year. We went back out the following April, and things are starting to green up, but we pulled some more soil samples. And from that, qualitatively, we can see we've still got great vegetation, but quantitatively, we could actually see the improvements with our soil health and increased organic matter over time.
Which a lot of people don't do, go back out and test the soil later. They only use the visual cues. Whereas in the ag industry, when you do soil amendments, they can check their yield on the crop. Whereas with most of what we do with vegetation, is the site protected.
Yeah, if we hit 70%, are we good? Are we getting paid, right? We move on to the next. So this is kind of fun to highlight a lot of the work that you guys have been doing out in your regions.
This is where you find out you're sustainable. A couple of years later, is it growing grass?
Yeah, exactly. And so this is from this month, earlier this month, coming up on almost 10 years of sustainable growth.
Love it.
So this is what we love to see. And
thanks, Todd.
This is that one-step approach. Do it right the first time, and then reap the benefits later on. Hopping over to Nebraska, thank you, Lynn, for sharing these pictures. So this was actually a fun application because it turned into a lunch and learn and demo combo. So talking about some of the products that we have available and what can help your local cities or what have you. And then we actually got to go out and apply the product. For those of you in the office, I was in the office my first 4 years at Profile. It's great to get out in the field. We talk about these products, but actually get out there and get your hands on it just really helps grasp the whole process. So here we are spraying ProGanics. We had a lot of great city folks out there asking a lot of great questions. But here, one of the cool things is, Nebraska's got pretty good soil, but we can even make it better. So this just helped get increased vegetation establishment. In this area, they're expecting a lot of water to accumulate. So having that vegetation as quickly as possible is going to help with the overall success of this project.
And a healthy root zone.
Exactly.
Endure the rough 4 seasons they get.
Exactly. So kind of moving over to a smaller application, we can use this on all sorts of projects. So this is down in Colorado Springs. This is actually with an HOA. They had grown in native vegetation, but they weren't too thrilled with the establishment. Natives are great. They use less water, but you aren't going to get the look typically of your turf grasses. So the superintendent of the HOA really wasn't thrilled with how it had come in. So working with a contractor down there, they use ProGanics DUAL, so that 2-in-1 product, to actually overseed. So they were doing spot treatments in some of these bare areas to help amend the soil in those areas and reapply some seed. So this just got done this month. So hoping, looking forward to tracking this. But
thank you, Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Ryan. So this is a great way, kind of something to keep in your mind, as another type of application. And we're winding down here.
We go little ones on our flat area, and now we go big ones on a steep area.
Exactly. So, winding down here, here's a little job down in Colorado Springs. This is Pikeview Quarry, or for those of you in the area, the SCAR. I was reading up on it, and it was mine operated from 1903 to 2018. So pulling limestone and raw materials used for concrete in the Olympic Village. I mean, this was constantly in use. And then they ceased operations in 2018. And now the real fun begins, at least for us erosion control people, right? The restoration, as you guys can see, it's a monster of a project. So they really had to take a robust approach out here. So, one of the first things, partnering with, HydroTurf, the contractors down there, the Bowman team, and, Profile, trying to help as much as we can. We started with a soil test. While it had been mined for over 100 years, we kind of had a guess of what the nutrient level would be, but doing that soil test was really helpful to kind of confirm where we're at. Talking with the owner of HydroTurf, you can be out there and it's snowing up top, raining in the middle, dry on the bottom, because we're dealing with a wide range of elevation. So as you can expect, we have to go in with a unique approach for the 125 acres. So from the soil testing, we could tell that Biotic Soil Media was going to be a great fit for this job site. That said, it wasn't initially on the spec. So working with, the Bowman team and the contractor, we were able to gain approval on that site. And that's important in a couple slides. So keep that in mind. Even if it isn't spec'd there, we might be able to help you with a submittal to kind of get that material out there. So a couple different approaches. For the areas steeper than 2-to-1, they decided to go with a Biotic Soil Media capped with an erosion control blanket. In these particular areas, we used a straw-based Biotic Soil Media below the blanket. So we can see from the color, it's a little bit lighter than what we get from our wood mulches. So we can see some of that going down. And then here we are capping with the blankets.
And so you see those tiny little specks?
Yeah, those little dots, 7 crew members, braver than I, unrolling blankets and then having to get their cardio going back and forth.
And staple.
Exactly. And then for the areas less than 2-to-1, we went in with a ProGanics DUAL application.
Which does not require staples.
Look at
that, it's amazing.
Yes, thank you, Josiah, for getting this drone footage. I think it does a great job to capture the scale. But what we can see here is with one product, we're amending the soil, we're providing the erosion control protection. And look how much, I don't know about you, but I would much rather be spraying this than running back up the mountain. So
With
there,
32 tanks
yeah,
versus 36 truckloads of soil, trying to spread that on the side of the mountain.
exactly. So, they're spraying out ProGanics DUAL in this area to amend and stabilize with that one tank load of product. And so, here's a picture from earlier this week. This is up on the 3rd tier, and directly in front of you, what you're seeing is a site that was seeded last month in July.
Wow.
Not ideal time to be seeding, but sometimes, we don't really get control on when that's going to occur. But even still, the amount of vegetation coming up here at elevation, the hottest months of the year, with the seed mix is incredible. Further up to the right, you can see a little bit of ProGanics DUAL, and then up at the very tippy top, we can see where they did the straw-based BSM, and then they capped it with ProMatrix. So this is kind of a Where's Waldo of erosion control BM piece. Yeah. And I think we have time here, but we did a brief, I got a brief update from Edgar Perez, the Director of Operations with HydroTurf.
Alrighty. Again, great enjoy the results that we have here. It's been going phenomenal. We have a good crew that's been helping out a lot. We've been through a lot of struggles here and there, weather-wise and other issues that we had throughout, but again, the results speak for themselves.
Certainly. And so out here, there's a lot of different aspects and things we're working against or trying to work with. So a combination of different products, one of which is ProGanics DUAL. I was just wondering if you could share what's been your guys' experience with that, maybe something you've learned or enjoyed using it out in the field.
Well, the very first thing is very easy to work with. So we use those on flatter areas, 3-to-1s. We use 2-to-1s blanket, and then the DUAL, we use it on some of the slopes. We did get a couple of heavy rainstorms here and there. It's held up pretty well, so
good.
We like it.
Appreciate that. Well, thanks for the update. More pictures to come.
Good job. Can you recap that if they couldn't hear?
Yeah,
it?
so
If they had their volume turned down?
just in case you guys couldn't hear, I was asking Edgar for an update. They started seeding this spring, but just with timing and everything, they've had to continue through the non-ideal seeding window. But with that, they've got an incredible crew. Safety is essential out on this job site. So they have a very impressive crew out there, working nonstop to get this covered. But they've had to deal with weather. It's monsoon season, it's really high temperatures. And, in particular, I asked about DUAL, and he said, last month, I think he recorded within 24 hours, they had a 6-inch rain event, and they were thrilled with how well everything held up. And so, from those pictures, you can see that it's really benefiting from that moisture. And they've got probably a month or so left of seeding.
Boy, I wonder, in a month or so, you could maybe have an update.
Oh, maybe. But, I will say, more updates to come. Ryan Anderson with Bowman is going to present with me at the Mountain States IECA conference in November. And I'm sure the Hale group will be sharing some updates.
I'll be up there too for another project. But Ryan, now it's public. All these people in this webinar know you got to go. You can't back out.
So, that's just kind of a highlight reel of some of the areas and applications we can use these technologies. Final thing here, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I understand, we talk about a lot of these products and they're great, but realistically, it comes down to the cost. Is it a good fit for me and my project? So if you guys aren't aware, we have a ProGanics cost savings calculator on our website. If you just Google ProGanics cost savings calculator, we have it in US metric units, and we also have it available in Spanish. But this is a completely editable calculator where we can compare the material, installation, and transportation cost of a traditional topsoil or compost application versus a hydraulic installation. So this is what it looks like. Again, all these fields are completely editable. So you start by putting in the project size, select the area. And this is actually from an actual project in Alabama. And so this was a residential development, 2.7 acres. It was originally spec'd for 4 inches of topsoil. So they plugged that in, put in the cost per cubic yard. the trucks that they had available and the miles to the job site and cost per mile, they were able to calculate out the total cost of material, transportation, and installation. And in this instance, it was going to be around $40,000. So they'd heard of ProGanics and wanted to see if it would be a good fit. So here we are on the next slide. Notice it's in metric units, just kind of want to show the versatility here, but plugging in the application rate of ProGanics, then we can calculate how many bags we need and what is our landed cost to the job site. So that's going to vary depending on where you're at, of course. Get in touch with your hail rep for your local pricing. That the delivered cost is in the price of that bag. They had an installation cost line in there. And in this case, they were going to save just under $15,000 by using ProGanics compared to the traditional method. And, that's just with the material and transportation. Talking with the contractor after the fact, they figured if they would have gone the traditional route, they would have been on site an extra week or two, just trying to spread that material. So the time back is also, priceless.
Yeah.
So really recommend using this tool. It's free to access. You can't break it. It's just on the website. So plug and play with it and see if it could be a good fit for you on your specific project. And then the very last thing I've got is value engineering. I talked about it with the PyQ project. Keep in mind that, a job might need increased organic matter and it just might not be in the specs. So I'm sure you guys have had countless opportunities to value engineer a job. So if there is an opportunity where you introduce ProGanics or DUAL or HydroStraw all in one to a job site, there's a rebate in it for you on the contractor side. So if you are introducing this project or flipping from topsoil to compost, currently the 2024 rebate is up to $300 per ton. So it's a pretty great rebate. We'd love to cut a check. Just let us know how we can support you on that submittal.
You got to fill out the form and send it in. My wife catches me with the big box stores like lumber yards. I do all my own home improvement and projects. She's like, did you mail in this rebate for that receipt? No, it can be a lot of money.
It can be a lot of money.
You have to fill out the form. You got to sign up.
And we try to keep it as simple as possible. We just need like, hey, this is what was originally there. Here's an email saying that we can use this. And in this office in particular, they can get those submitted pretty quick. So we're more than happy to assist you on that process.
Can't win if you don't play.
Exactly.
It's a lottery thing to say.
So to kind of wrap up, thanks again so much for your guys' time and attention. Hopefully you guys got some beneficial information. But just recap of some resources available for you. Call us anytime, reach out to your hail group rep. We really want to work with you and help in any way we can. Otherwise, we've got all these tools on the website, PS Cubed, erosioncontrolspecs.com. We're happy to work on demos, as you saw from that Omaha example. If you've got a good opportunity, get with your rep or get with us, and we'd be happy to help facilitate that.
And Rachel and her other profile products cohorts love to do lunch and learns. They love going to visit. We do lunch and learns, but they love to be there on site. They love meeting people and telling their story. Yeah,
so we'd love to help. We just, you got to ask. So with that, I think we've got a little bit of time.
We had a bunch of Q&A, and most of them came from people answering the questions when you asked how many people were familiar. Oh, for Pete's sake. Can I get that cursor over there?
There you go. I see some ones, which is great. Appreciate that.
How can I get that to scroll?
If you guys don't remember, that means they're very familiar with hydroseeding.
Yeah. So make sure my camera and audio are off. Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, your camera's off. Thank you, Tommy. Mark, I didn't say, oh yeah, Mark chimed in. Of course, Mark, you're the expert.
Mark Tyson, I hope you're pretty familiar.
You better be, Mark. Thank you, Chester and Aaron. Hopefully you got the answers you're looking for. Right in the middle is good. Then used off and on for over 20 years, Reed. Yep, I figured as much for you. Thank you. And then, yeah, just got a lot of good feedback from some anonymous people.
Yeah, I saw a compositional question. We do have all of our composition available on our technical data sheets. So we do not have herbicides or pesticides in these products. So if you don't have access to those data sheets, reach out to me, or they're available on our website. But we do have all of that and environmental testing on those data sheets.
Did you see that? I went really fast. We don't have to read them all out loud, by the way, in case it's one of my coworkers messing with me. Is Bill married? Yes, I'm married. The technical spec, absolutely. That's an anonymous question as well. the different specs based on
So-
soil sample results.
Yeah. So there were questions on when do you soil sample. We recommend once you're at final grade, because again, we're trying to sample the top 3 inches of what we're actually going to be seeding. So there's really no point to going out there and seed if they're going to cut into those slopes. So, towards the end, once we have the final substrate that we're actually going to be working with is ideally when you will be collecting that soil sample. And then, then do you include a different specification alternatives based on those results? Yes. And so erosion control specs, we have really great drop-in tables where you can say, based on this result, this is how much of that product you would need to apply. And yes, we do have those available in a technical spec, and I would refer to erosioncontrolspecs.com or give me a shout.
And
Happy to help.
thank you, everybody saying thank you and great job to Rachel. I agree. Let's see if I got everybody on there. Scroll down. We're about done here on time, even though I started a little late. Scroll through.
Really appreciate all the interactions.
Yeah, a lot of good compliments and stuff. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, we got that.
Mhm.
I think it feels like it's scrolling back around like we got them all.
Yeah, I think we got all the questions. I'm happy to stick on for another minute or two. I know we don't want to eat up into your guys' afternoon, but here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, she's awesome. Let's see if I got this. So this is what bugged me, right? So now I'm going to go back, guys. We're still on live. I know that. I'm going to get to the very end because I've got a couple slides at the end to show you that Madeline created for us. And let's see if that's it. We got one more. So this is our contact us. It seems like that's not what's showing. Resume slideshow. Great. Come clear over here to this one. There we go. There's our contact information. Just like anything, Google it, you'll find us. Take your camera if you can on your phone. Use that QR code. It's safe. I tried it, and that'll help you register for next month, which is actually only in a couple of weeks because we got in on late August here. We wanted to get timing of visiting the Pikeview Quarry first, and I wanted to be able to be out here in person with Rachel so you get to pick up on the chemistry. But join us on September 4th for our soil cell systems for urban tree webinar, and I'm going to go downtown Denver and get some pictures and videos for that so I can update that webinar. But thanks guys for joining us. As always, please look for an email from Madeline, and Madeline's going to give you a little survey to fill out. Make sure we have your right contact information. It's an opportunity for you to see the questions that were asked and answered live during the webinar. It's another opportunity for you to ask questions that you thought of after we hang up here. So please use that opportunity, and we'll give out all the information to all attendees. Everybody gets a PDH certificate for continuing education, and we're now EnviroCert approved for this series for CPESC. So anybody that needs EnviroCert approval, you got it. We'll have that on our PDH certificate. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
guys.
Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Take care.